I'm joined now by Zhao. He's the director of the Center for China-U.S. Cooperation at the University of Denver. Sam, it's pretty amazing what we're looking at here. I mean, there's everything from sewing machine needles to bookbinding equipment, tech stuff. The list goes on and on. Aerospace, robotics, 1,300 products in all. There's going to be a public comments period. How long do you think before you start seeing lobbying from different groups that are going to be impacted on the administration to try and change their posture?
I think the lobby already started today. In fact, I just received an email from the U.S.-China Business Council asking their members to lobby. They give the website address, asking everyone to write them, tell them what they think is wrong and what products should be excluded from the list. And there are a lot of big companies in this U.S.-China Business Council. I think many other lobby organizations may also have started lobby. So this next month or so should be very crucial to see what type of impacts or what is the real size or scale of these so-called sanctions, tariffs against China will be. My guess is that what Trump has proposed, or the USTR has proposed, will be much bigger than the final product. In fact, Trump is a business person. He tries always to start with something very high price, then negotiate to the price pretty much to the real market price. In fact, earlier your clips showed that he talked about $500 billion trade deficit, which I don't think that's the case. In fact, the U.S.-China business, trade in the last couple of years have kept around $600 billion. So it cannot be $500 billion of trade deficit. Where his side, some other times, also talk about $300 billion of trade deficit. I think that pretty much is the size. But even that number has some inflation there because a lot of those deficits were from the third countries, manufactured, assembled in China. In fact, a lot of American businesses manufactured in China and exported to the U.S. And also, when talk about that trade deficit, there is another issue that is here we are talking about only commodity trade. In terms of trade, service trade, there is a big surplus on the U.S. side. I would even argue that, I could be wrong, but that's about $300 billion. So if we take that number into account, the U.S.-China trade is pretty much in the level it should be. So this type of blind covered so-called sanctions against China would hurt both China and the U.S.
Yeah, some analysts are saying that this is just an effort by the U.S. president, and you alluded to it, to basically nudge China, make some concessions. Trump can claim victory. It's just all a negotiation. But it can go the other way with China retaliating, and this thing could spiral on, couldn't it?
That could be, but so far, I think China has talked tough, acted in a very measured way. What we have seen, the so-called China list, 120 items are very minor, the porks and the soybeans. For some parts of the U.S. producers, those are very important. But on the overall U.S.-China trade, these are very small percentage, small amount. So we'll see what China will come up next. So China has been talking about the reciprocal. I think that's the key here. How do we say reciprocal if we don't know what will come out really after in 2 months? So I think China has been talked very tough and waiting to see what will come out in a month or so. In the meantime, China will threaten for sure. China would retaliate. That would make some people in the U.S. think about. And also, you look at the list. most are those high-tech products, telecommunication, information technology, aerospace, all those products. Those are not major China exports to China. China exports to U.S. Mostly are manufactured goods, lower end. The high end of the exports to the U.S. It's increasing for sure, but not the main components of these exports. So when Trump talked about those in a top list, I think he sent a message that you have to think some other things here. We start from the high end, and we can negotiate. So the real result at this point, I don't think everybody would know. And a trade war would damage not only China, but the U.S., as everyone says. Trump has been so confident when he talked about he does not care about the trade war, U.S. will win. Here the issue is, U.S. wins at what price? Could U.S. afford this price? Although the economy of U.S. is doing well, but there are a lot of potential problems. The stock market response is a very good indication of this trade war that U.S. economy would be concerned. When that so-called the list was announced, $60 billion was announced last month. Yeah. The stock market crumbled.
Right. And there's a chance it will react similarly this time as well. Yeah, Sam?
Yeah, we'll see what will happen tomorrow. And yesterday was a miracle, I mean, for stock market. Today we just saw a small recovery, and we'll see what the response tomorrow. I would guess the market is very nervous. But as I said, some people may take a longer view to see what will happen in May.
Sam, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us and your analysis. Appreciate it.